dessert. It also keeps us something to do while we get through the minutes and the beginning.
Do I have to wait till someone's sitting over there?
I need to present stuff. I've been going to, but I can do that. Okay.
Okay, well, do I need to wait for Chris for a roll call?
No, I'll do it.
All right, it's 5:32. Now call the Town of Breckenridge Planning Commission meeting for March 22nd, 2023 to order. And Julia, roll call, please.
Mr. Gerard,
Here.
Mr. Fletcher,
Here.
Mr. Giller, Mr. Lees,
Here.
Ms. Proper,
Here.
Mr. Guerra,
Here.
Ms. Gort.
Here.
Thank you, Julia. Let's see, first up on the agenda, the approval of the minutes for the last meeting of that, which would have been March 8th, 2023. Any comments from fellow commissioners on the minutes from that meeting? Okay.
I made a point of asking Chris if we could please get the drawings for the BGV gondola project early enough so that we had time to review them. I think this is a really important issue. It wasn't reflected in the meeting, in the minutes at all. And I want to bring it up again because I think that mentioned a couple of times, I think this project is probably the last big opportunity that we have to screw up Breckenridge. So I think it's really important that we all pay a lot of attention to what's going on. And we need time to go through those drawings. So again, I want to bring that issue up. And I'd like to see it reflected in the minutes.
Okay, all right.
Can someone tell me, do we anticipate another preliminary or a final? And if so, about
Preliminary.
when the next bill will be?
There'll be another preliminary meeting. Chris can probably comment on timing.
Well, I guess we don't know we didn't really get feedback. I mean, they were kind of within striking distance, but we don't know we haven't, I guess, had any communication in terms of what their next move is. So I don't know when to expect anything from them again.
Just my take on it, Mike. I had a very clear sense that they expected another preliminary.
Excuse me 1 second. Okay, before we go on to the next item, I'd like to welcome our new commissioner, Elaine Gort.
Thank you.
If you lift up the.
This is we're stuck in between.
Okay. Thank you.
On the agenda, any changes to the agenda?
There are no proposed changes tonight.
Okay. As part of a certified local government, we are asked to take public comment on historical preservation issues in the community. With that, I'll open the meeting to any public comment. If you're attending the meeting by phone, press *9 on your phone, then *6 to unmute yourself.
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. First up is consent calendar. And excuse me for 1 second. So we have one item on the consent calendar, the Engel Residence Edition. Any commissioners would have any questions or would like to call up the?
I have a couple
I have a couple questions, but I'm not inclined to call it up. I think I
Okay.
can get my questions answered.
Okay, all right. Stephen, why don't you go first? And this is Cliff, correct?
Cliff, I understand the net sort of substance of this, besides being kind of an overall remodel. They're gonna end up with one more bedroom and one more bathroom, and it looks like the design is to kind of ensuite all the bedrooms and bathrooms.
Yes,
Do you know if this house holds a short-term rental permit?
it does not,
You don't know, or it does not?
not to my knowledge of
Okay.
having one, but I also haven't researched it.
And I only ask that question because I have heard some conversations in other places with people who have short-term rental licenses that are expanding to be able to have more occupants in their home. The other thing that I noticed, it doesn't look like they're removing many trees, but I visited the site and it's going to be really tough to get any equipment around that house. It's pretty treed in. How will that be approached by, I don't know if that's the building department that would keep an eye on how they deal with the existing trees and equipment?
So prior to building submittal, or I guess release of a building permit. So prior to the release of a building permit, myself will actually go on and see their fencing as well as protective barriers for all of the trees. So that's one thing that I can definitely prioritize looking and seeing. And then I can also reach out to the contractor to see you know, how they will be able to manage that.
Okay, and that brings me right directly to my next question. Without a disturbance envelope, what will they be required to fence?
So most likely we'll fence the setbacks. With it being Warriors Mark West, they already have unique setbacks. So we'll probably do a fence at that line, but it's also kind of up to engineering of where they would want that fence.
Okay. Because it looked to me that if you fenced on the setbacks, there'd be a lot of trees inside that fence. That's the way it would play out.
And then we would protect a lot of those with kind of protective fencing around the tree trunk and then kind of protecting the root structure itself.
And my last observation was that your report indicates that it has a 12% slope in the drive, which is 4 degrees, 4% greater than what I think is permitted, but this was originally in the county before it came into the town.
Yes, sir. So it was annexed in, but then engineering has also kind of reviewed this project as well. They're not touching the driveway, so they're okay to stay out of compliance to current standards.
And this remodel project isn't of such an extent that would require them to take care of any violations that existed under the current rules.
At this time, engineering has basically given them the variance to keep that driveway as it is.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
And I do not desire to call this up.
Mark? Steve hit my question about the 12% driveway. I was gonna make a comment about the drawings. I think the drawings are, it's very difficult to understand what the design intent is here. And I know that you have nothing to do with that, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, the existing versus proposed is a unique way to do it, but
If the architect had been here, I would have made that comment, but.
Darcy is online. I don't know if she has anything to say.
Would you like a response from the architect or no, just want to
No, I
pass on?
just, I
Okay,
just find these drawings very challenging to understand exactly what's existing
Mhm.
and what is going to be
sure.
the final drawing. And what we're used to seeing, and what I'm used to seeing, is an existing elevation.
Mhm.
And then the final elevation, which makes it far more clear and certainly would make it easier for the staff, Cliff and whoever else reviews this to understand very quickly and very clearly what's going on. And that's my only comment.
Okay. All right.
I don't need a response.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if that, we close the consent calendar. All right.
We had to make Cliff work a little bit on this.
Yeah. So Elaine, sorry, you won't be able on your
Yeah.
first meeting, be able to participate in the hearing. I'm sure we'll have plenty more. Next item on the agenda is a work session about capacity analysis for the town of Breckenridge.
Yeah, so been working on this. I don't remember when I started it, but what happened was the town council had some concerns about are we reaching capacity? We're experiencing some overcrowding feelings, maybe with regard to parking and congestion in town. And where is that really the case, or is that a perception? And so what we did was hire a company called RRC out of Boulder to help us perform the study and really see if this was a perception or not, if we were really experiencing it. So we asked them some key questions and the purpose in the study to answer. And that was, are we seeing a significant increase in the number of people in the past 5 years? Number two, if so, what's the makeup of the people in that increase? Is it residents, visitors, and so on? And what does that data tell us for future projections of those trends? And we want to try to understand those changes over time. So what's that reliable data set look like? So in January, we took the final version of this to the town council. We're actually going to come back in probably end of March or early April, actually probably end of April, with a couple of updates. They wanted to get some additional information on out of county, so within Colorado, but out of county mobile data. And the other one was sewer data from Upper Blue Sanitation. But really to monitor these over time, we needed really reliable data. And we went with mobile location data, so cell phone tracking data, traffic counts, trail user counts, sales tax collection, lodging room nights, and average daily rate, and then school enrollment numbers. And
Can you unplug your computer and replug
unplug
it?
it? Sure.
So recognize it.
There were some other important things that we want to measure going forward, like parking counts and transit, but it was very unreliable data when we looked at it. And a lot of that had to do with just the way the counts were done, and they were really inconsistent. Sometimes we lost bus routes, and so that would really mess with the numbers, for example, and the parking counts were just kind of done with the person inconsistently over time. So staff's worked with Breck Park and trying to come up with some better systems for that, and as well as our free ride system. And really what we saw was, yes, we have seen an increase. It's not our first big increase we've seen over time, but the 2021 year was a big increase. And really just that whole time frame from 2019 to 2021. And really that shows in all these data points that I'm going to show you here. But can we go to my screen, Cliff? Is that possible?
I'm trying to, but it won't recognize it.
Okay, maybe if I unplug it again.
Let's try reconnecting the cable. Worked last time.
Because I have the dashboard on here that we can
And all else fails, reboot.
play around with, going back and forth. Okay. Well, that's going to be difficult to show you this. Doesn't recognize it. Is there something I can read?
Sure, it's still plugged in.
Thought it was just me. I always have problems.
Flash.
No.
Hmm.
Should I restart?
Is this something you could send to Cliff?
New
Um,
York over the weekend. Cars in New York, Manhattan, it's just absurd. That's because if it-
send you
with all the
your email on there.
giving out, people want cars.
Get it?
It's right, subways.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. And it's,
It's the way it's gotten in Washington. There's so much crime in the subways.
Yeah.
Couldn't control.
Done.
and Bloomberg had come back, saying that. They have a lot more bus only and bike lanes on every avenue. So there's at most avenues only have 2 lanes for traffic. And some cross streets, you can't drive across town.
Yeah, that's
It's
happening
just-
in
it's
DC
crazy.
too, when people are very,
Yeah.
both sides are hopeless
Yeah.
about the issue. I'm just so glad to be out of there.
Yeah, so am I. I'm not crazy about going back.
Yeah, yeah.
When I go back to visit,
Be in your email.
it's at Midtown. And to get to the airport, it's quicker to go to the side, up and all the way around. Rather than try and go across town.
You get cross.
Like my new tablet.
Doesn't like
Up
it.
and running.
All of the bridge.
Mm.
With Crossbox Expressway crosses the East River. Just
Flip it.
we went over the,
Oh, okay. So-
You can do that or flip that. She has it plugged into her.
Oh, yeah, I see they're all, they don't have it.
Mm.
Was working on my computer.
I'd
It
say.
it
was
did take
working,
me one
but
time.
it-
to
yeah,
reconnect.
Took the one time to like.
you guys just don't want me to break Tanya's record for the first meeting.
Stalling.
Mark have a bet on this. Do you guys have a bet on when the meeting ends like last time?
Yeah.
Test it, but
Do you follow basketball?
Mhm.
So you're watching the girls tournament?
why it's not even showing up.
My
on the-
Hawkeyes are in the thick of it. I think Colorado next.
Some good games
Can we
last night.
can you use your
UConn
guest
game, the UConn
laptop
women,
and
and
Just try to send it one more time.
upsetting Indiana was number 1. Good
We-
games.
Iowa's got a player who her signature shot, which she makes with regularity, is on the Hawkeye symbol in the middle of the floor. So she's like 10 feet
For
outside.
some reason, he's not getting my emails right now.
That's where
either.
she's practicing.
For the big projects. I feel like something's wrong with my computer.
when you click that carrot,
Yeah, 2 of the number 1 seeds are out. It's
click Wi. You're on the Wi-Fi.
fun. They play real basketball. They run, they gun, they.
Getting your email.
How's UConn doing?
The.
They're only like a
UConn
a
is,
second 2 seed.
Something that's.
Still, they were a 2 seed. Iowa was a 2 seed.
Is that for workforce housing or?
It's.
Let you do that? That's.
This is in. Well,
Record game later.
they would, and I'm about to start to.
There's 2 addresses there, so that's not gonna work.
We got a little addition on it.
2 different links.
Oh, okay.
Houses, big houses. Couple of them.
And
I'll probably have another
all of a
house.
sudden they're coming out there and she just drops it inside to the big girl in the middle and there you go. The inside outside game.
Slowed it all or to your feeling?
It hasn't for me, and overall.
We passed this at Christmas.
When
Okay.
things, when
Oh,
things
no.
start dropping. we
Okay.
have a lag.
All right, back in business. Good thing we don't have a busy agenda. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. This is we have 2 dashboards. One's related to traffic. And then the others, all the other indicators. So with this one, what we're able to do is just look at compare year over year. Or so we can go to set different dates, plug those in and it'll spit this out for us. And we can kind of see where we're at as a comparison over time. This is kind of a heat map of traffic. And so our traffic counters at Highway 9 and Tiger Road. We are actually getting another traffic counter installed. I believe it's the spring. And it'll be on the south end of town. So we can see what's coming in from that end as well. Because we know that with growth at Colorado Springs, we're definitely seeing a huge increase of traffic coming from the south as well. So we'll be able to monitor that. But there's a temporary one up there right now, but it's not reliable data at this point. But it will be going forward. So you can kind of see it kind of runs when it runs, here's the hotter times, Friday and Saturday evening and a little bit Friday morning but kind of runs with actually commuter time too. It's 8 to 5. So that kind of, it's like, well, where's everybody coming from? And this is where the mobile data gets involved and it gets kind of interesting. And so you can see most of the red is out of state. So the years I have is 2019 to 2022 here. So we've got a lot of out of state or international. So it basically dings where your phone is from. So then the second one is the yellow, other Colorado. And so that's why, and other Summit County. So that's why we're going to do a little bit of a further breakdown with RRC on this mobile data and see, well, where from Colorado are they coming? Are they coming from the adjacent counties and driving into town for work? Where that could be our workforce as well as visitors. So want to kind of see where that's shaking out.
Hey, Julia, I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the out of state cell phone, is it verified at, like, I guess check like whether that phone has been within the county for some time? Because I know a lot of people like keep their cell phone number for life now.
That was a question I had.
You can have like a out of state number, like maybe Cliff has an out of state number but it's dinging consistently over time for a period of, I think it's 6 months, then it considers you a local.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what your area code is. That's not what it's dinging. It's dinging that phone in a location over time.
Uncle Sam.
Big brother.
Big brother.
So yeah, so then you can see the Breck local is the darkest blue as well. So it's just really interesting to kind of see that breakout of who's coming in and out and where are they from. So
Brought up a good question. What happened to the 2% between outbound and inbound?
I'm guessing it's just percentages and just percentages, I suppose. So that is kind of the dashboard. So that's kind of an interesting tool for us to use and monitor. And then we've got the capacity indicator dashboard. So what you had in your packet is the actual physical report, but this is what the tool that we can actually use from that report. And it doesn't show up very well in just one screen here for you, unfortunately, but we can see kind of here, again, it's kind of a plug and play. And I can't see it on the screen for some reason, but usually there's 3 dots here and maybe it's because I'm not using anyways, there's a setting on here where you can change these dates to kind of make this comparison. So we'll just have to go with what it's set at right now, and I won't get to play with it, but
Can you open it in a different browser?
I don't know, it's over there. So the computer's not in front of me. So anyways, we're looking at the 2021-22 winter by month versus the 2021-22. So the 21-22 is the one that we've seen a big jump. I'll also mention here that 21 was our big year, or kind of our banner year. And then, since 22, we've seen the numbers go down in pretty much everything. So the 21 might have just been an anomaly with pent up COVID travel demand is what the thought process is right now. But of course, we're not sure. It's kind of too early to tell, and we'll keep monitoring, but that's seems to be what we're seeing and what seems to be occurring in tourist destinations all over the place.
Are people looking at those spikes and dips and figuring out what's happening around here?
Yeah, some of that's just normal, and because it'll depend on the day of the week, things like that. So the weekdays are lower.
Like
you
what
know.
happened? There's one giant spike there right in the middle. What's that? Do we know?
129, I didn't look at what that is, but
Snow sculptures.
oh, yeah.
Could be, yeah.
That's always that Saturday of snow sculptures is always the busiest day by quite a bit.
I was saying that was also the year we had that horrendous, the middle of January, that horrendous traffic jam.
Which
On
was-
MLK weekend, that
So we look at average daily room nights. This is measured primarily through information that the BTO gathers. And it compares multiple hotel lodging locations in town that I'll report out to this one company. And then report back to the BTO those numbers. And so the council sees these numbers pretty regularly, the average daily room nights and the occupancy rate.
can you tie in now that they're collecting short-term rental? Is that stuff tracked by date, the short-term rental taxes
It'd be tracked by month.
by month? Okay.
Mhm. And then
Taxes on.
Yeah, there's a tax on those.
here's our water. And we'll get the sewer data that we're kind of working on. Sales tax, of course, went up. When the lodging went up, the short term, like you could see the short-term rental
Mhm.
lodging tax went up, and so
So
did the
this
sales
is-
tax.
This is all sales tax, right? This
Yeah.
is on goods, on hotels and on short-term rentals. Okay. And food.
And food.
And food.
So that is sort of where we're at. And then we'll have some placeholders for the parking and the free ride, the transit as well. Once we get that ready. So that's kind of what that looks like for now. But we'll be modifying it over time as we refine and get more information, I guess, and see what's working, what isn't. What's useful.
Julia, you started off by saying, have we reached capacity?
Mhm.
What does that mean exactly? When we get to capacity, are we gonna put up a fence and not let anybody else in? I mean, it's kind of a.
Well, one of the options
What
that
is- What is the town, I guess the town council has asked for this, what is their perspective about capacity? What does capacity mean?
I mean, I think it's a kind of a gray area. You might know it when you feel it, I guess. But right now, I mean, there's not like a magic number. Like once we hit this number, it is done. But there was always an option too, when the council saw this information or sees it in the future, if they see a trend that they're not comfortable with, there might be, there could always be an option for doing some kind of I don't know, mitigation, whether it's a different parking program or transit or something. I couldn't speak to that because we haven't gotten there.
Marketing,
But
cutting back marketing budget.
I mean, the BTO has been heavily involved in this too. So yeah, Ethan's exactly correct. It could be targeting different markets, which they're kind of already doing. It plays into maybe when and how many events we want to do. In town, maybe there's some times we want to avoid, maybe we. So of planning
I'm
additional
assuming that
events.
during those winter months where the capacity was the greatest, that those people are coming here to ski. And so that kind of puts the town at loggerheads with Vail Ski Company because they want to get as much revenue as they can for the mountain. And so those are conflicting ideals. We don't want the capacity, but they want the additional skiers. And because of the agreement with the parking garage and the parking capacity, I think it would be kind of difficult to cut that parking back and say, if you come in here to ski, we don't have any place for you to park.
And that's not what I was saying. I just meant like it could, we have a parking permit program in town, for example. Could have to do with that. Could have to, I mean, I don't know what it would entail because we haven't gotten there, like I said, and I don't know that the town, I can say the town's not, didn't look at this and say we're clashing with Vail Resorts. That wasn't the case. That's, yeah, it's just, that's
Their
just part
programs.
of our
It looks like-
town. And so it's just, how are we, that is a fact, like we have skiing, but what else? There's so much more happening here.
I'm not
And
trying to ask difficult questions. I'm just trying to understand what is the concept of capacity? And how do all the parties look at that? Obviously, Vail Skiing Company may look at it differently than
Sure.
the town council. And the merchants in town may look at it differently than both of those people. So what is the general idea of capacity? Is what I'm trying to get to.
there's no specific definition that they have. Would probably be the answer to that.
But like certain things,
Yeah.
Juliet, has there been discussion yet about when they might repeat this after putting in the new
Gonna-
parking? Traffic counters and that kind of thing?
When we put in the new traffic counter,
Yeah, and then the better parking analysis.
so they're working on the parking, getting a more accurate parking count. They're making those plans now. So, I don't know when exactly the date that those go in, but I would guess not during the winter because it's hard to cut pavement and things like that. And which is why CDOT will put that in the spring, summer season.
But I'm asking, when would they repeat the study?
Oh, we'll do it every year.
Every year? Okay.
Yeah. That will update everything every year.
Yeah.
It's the plan right now. And then if we start seeing a trend that's not favorable, then we could increase that to like every 6 months or something like that. So we could monitor it a little closer.
Well, it looks like with the dashboard, it looks like with all that data, I don't see why it couldn't be updated monthly.
One is the mobile data is expensive to gather.
Okay.
That's part of it. And then a lot of these indicators, like the traffic lags is a lagging indicator.
Sure.
So CDOT takes a little while to get that posted.
Julia, what does the town pay for this? Because I think the frequency probably has a lot to do with what the cost is. So what is the cost of this study?
Well, the study in total, like creating it and everything was maybe around 25,000. But then the annual updating of it is much less, maybe like 6 a year.
To my point, if we were to do it monthly, it would be more money. If we would do it biannually.
Absolutely. It would
less.
be 6 every time. All that. It would be 6, let's say it's 6,000 a year, be 6 every time you pull it.
So you could
'cause
have.
it's the same amount of work
$6,000
every time.
or you could have 6,000 twice a year,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
gonna be $6,000.
I mean, that price will
About
change over time, but could be about that.
Julia, how do you see, how does the council see sharing this with the public?
Um, right now, we haven't made it a public facing dashboard. I think to do that, it would need more explanation and setup. So, and it would be locked probably. Right now it's set up so that we're not at a, we can make change, I can go in and make changes to this and so could anybody. So we have to like kind of keep this internal for now. So I don't know the answer to that. We haven't gone out to the public on it yet. I've presented it to some other groups. But yeah, it would need a different formatting probably to go to the public, just to be more user friendly and
Interesting data. What to
Yeah.
do with it?
I know.
Good question.
I really like this one.
It's
My favorite.
Mud season up on this.
Though you can see it.
You can a little
You can
bit.
see that it drops off, but mud season,
Yeah.
listen. My first mud season here, there was like one car on Main Street. It's changed. So
Just in 7 years since I've been
Yeah.
here.
So I was, and my pet peeve that I bring up often is I was looking at that mobile data. And about 20% is local and 80% of people from out of town are using the cell network, which. Then I don't know, I'd love to know what the town can do
That's a problem.
to improve capacity or, because I just think about, all the people who are do business rely on their phones to do business.
It's frustrating for me. It's my
Yeah,
name,
well,
too.
yeah.
Frustrating. It's not that
Just-
I couldn't call ski patrol the other day for a hurt skier. Yeah.
Happens all the time.
I always say, most of those people are going, hey, where are you? Oh, I'm right behind you in line.
No, they're posting on Instagram pictures of them,
And-
bombing down the slopes.
As is their right,
Yeah,
as is the right of Xfinity and Verizon and
course.
everybody else to collect the revenue. from
Yeah.
that. So,
Of course.
It's
very,
not
very
the cell phone, it's the data that's killing it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
You think it's the data, not the stuff.
The data's what does it.
Yeah, people are,
The pictures,
it's all the teenage girls on TikTok.
somebody FaceTime me going down the slope.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on the capacity dashboard?
It's,
I have a question. Can we see the sensor thing near Tiger Road? Is it on that farther away intersection? Or like when I drive down Tiger Road and turn left, is it counting me every time I go into town or
It's,
is it
in
only
the
counting if I go
pavement.
towards Frisco?
It's closer to the roundabout, actually, by Fairview, from my understanding, is where the counter is.
I think
Okay,
it's between the the roundabout and the,
That's where, I guess where it was previously when I was in charge of collecting that.
Traffic light at air, mains. South
Highway 9
9
and
and
Tiger Road. Yeah, it is. It's
yeah,
where
but what
CETA
side on, is it
documents
on, any idea? Like
I
Elaine said,
don't know which side.
I
it's on.
come down Tiger Road and I turn left to come to town. Is it counting me as entering town? Or
No, I could find out.
or
right now.
I'm avoiding it at that point?
I think it's counting both ways.
But he's saying which side of the stoplight, is it on the
Oh, I
north
see.
side or the south side? It would
I-
only probably be on one of those sides.
I think you would be counted going into town, from my
Then-
understanding.
Frequently, I go home on Highlands and I would never approach that counter
all right,
again.
Julia, you need to change
So there-
this because he changes.
I mean, really,
That your cell phone.
I mean, I guess the way to look at it is that's just a collection point along the way. I mean, you're gonna see some correlation by how many cars passing through there to how busy it is in town. I mean, there's tons of people that add the congestion in the core of town that never pass through that. Like you know, like neighborhoods like the Wellington, or you live in the Weisshorn, you live up in 4 o'clock road and coming and going. But generally the days where you have the most congestion, you could tie it proportionally to how many people are going through that intersection. So whether you pass through it or not, really is not that relevant.
And so I'll tell you too, that they did a big circle around Breck. So they took kind of all of Breck, and they can get all the mobile data from the entire town and say, these are all local people here today, or this is the percentage breakout and things like that.
I mean, it's interesting how consistent some of the stuff like the snow sculptures always, whether it be traffic or parking counts, like even before we went to this platform, when you used to do updates for Sustainable Breck and the capacity analysis. And then if you look at Christmas Day from Tiger Road, always by far the lowest number of cars during the ski season. I think historically it's around 7,500 compared to 23,000 on Christmas Day entering into town.
People always say it this year, oh, Christmas is gonna be busy. Day after, actually, the day after the day after. It's the big day.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is town council update. I guess
So-
Mark's not here. Oh,
I can do it. So for the council meeting, we had a lot of legislative review. We actually did the second reading of the density policy, so that is now done. We did the gondola lots master plan extended vesting, so that extended their development agreement by 6 more months. So that was approved at second reading. The public benefit for that was $100,000 for childcare, toward childcare. And then if the council wanted to extend it 6 months beyond that for a total of a year, it would be another $100,000 again toward childcare. Let's see, there was a plastic reduction ordinance at first reading, so that is basically eliminating single-use plastic water bottles everywhere in town. So that's kind of exciting. That was first reading. And
That's
Let's-
Jeffrey's,
Yeah.
isn't it?
yes, it is. They did a property names. They renamed Block 11 Apartments, Euler, was it just Euler Apartments? Yeah, there's that one.
there's gonna be.
They did the Stables Development contract with Suzanne Allen-Garrett's group. So, well, that was under planning matters. So they discussed the deal points of that. And first reading for that will go next week. They reviewed the Riverwalk Living Lab. So that's the Riverwalk project where, they've done all the special paints, the striping and everything for pedestrians and bikes, and trying to separate those uses, and talked about what was working, what wasn't, and making tweaks to the plan to go forward with a more permanent installation here coming up. So let's see, we'll try to get them to present that to you guys as well once they have a plan that's started. They went through a bunch of open space things, a state of the open space report, trails work plan, trailhead projects. And then, yeah, that's probably, you probably don't want to know about the Valley Brook Cemetery rules, but there was a lot of Jeffrey jokes involved in that one, so. But anyways, that's what we've got on the council work session. Any questions on that? Okay. That's all I've got.
All right. Any commissioner comments, questions, anything anyone want to add? Okay, well, at 6:16, I will adjourn the March 22nd, 2023 Planning Town of Breckenridge Planning Commission. It's 21st, I thought it was 22nd, 23rd.
21st.
Oh, okay. So adjourned.